Every time I come out here, Vinny's doing a job and you're holding his hand.
Me and him split everything. We started yesterday.
Get your hands dirty for a change. Do some welding and grinding instead of watching everybody.
After building Orange County choppers into a TV empire, Paul Teutul Jr. lost everything in a devastating family war. Imagine this, his own father demanded a staggering $1.5 million from his son, and his brother was caught in the middle, forced to choose sides. This wasn't just a business dispute, it was a painful personal rift that would change everything. But then came that pivotal moment, the one where you and your father simply couldn't go on the same path anymore. He fired you. He did. In the heat of it, it felt like a crushing blow, but looking back, Paul realizes it was the best thing that ever happened. And as Paul became a father himself, he began to truly understand the cost of the infamous feud. "I've found a lot of forgiveness and understanding towards my own father because of having my own son," he admits. It's a lesson learned through pain and perspective. Today, the man who built America's most famous motorcycles reveals the gut-wrenching truth behind the scenes. Why, after all this time, hasn't he shared a holiday meal with his father in 15 years? It's more than just family drama, it's a story of dreams, betrayal, and redemption. Back in the mid-80s, while most kids were cruising around on bikes, watching cartoons, or glued to their Nintendo, Paul Teutul Jr. had a completely different idea of fun. While others were living carefree childhoods, Paul was already working in the gritty, relentless world of Orange County Ironworks. At just 12 years old, he was surrounded by the roar of welding torches and the heat of molten metal. While the other kids spent their summers at the beach, Paul was sweeping metal shavings off the floors and running tools to the grown men welding steel. Even before that, he'd spend hours on his dad's job site, collecting scrap metal like it was treasure. He'd take those discarded pieces and turn them into intricate sculptures, shaping his childhood dreams from what others saw as junk. Those early days weren't just about learning a trade, they were about shaping a vision. By 14, Paul wasn't just holding a welder, he was using it with such calm precision that even the seasoned workers were in awe. But Paul wasn't just picking up skills, he was learning to think like a builder. He wasn't just building metal, he was building a legacy. Yet, life in the workshop wasn't all about sparks and smooth welds. Paul Sr., his father, was known for his intensity. He didn't go easy on his son. In fact, Paul Jr. often found himself held to a higher standard than anyone else. A small mistake, and he'd be yelled at in front of everyone. Some thought it was unfair, but Paul Sr. believed it would make his son stronger. As the years went by, the tension between them grew, especially with the rise of the show. Paul Sr. was old school. He valued brute strength and the traditional ways of the trade. Paul Jr., however, was a visionary. He had an artistic eye, a love for clean lines, and a passion for perfection. One summer, Paul Jr. redesigned a railing, making it stronger, sleeker, and better looking. Initially, his father dismissed it, but a few days later, without a word, Paul Sr. approved it and put the design into production. That moment spoke volumes. There was a deep respect beneath all the tension, but the tug-of-war between them was constant. While most high schoolers were cramming for math exams, Paul Jr. charted his own path. He entered a vocational program where he spent half of his school day learning metalwork, welding techniques, reading blueprints, studying stress points in steel. This wasn't just a class for Paul. This was the beginning of his destiny. One of his instructors even remarked that Paul had a rare gift. He could see how metal wanted to move before even touching it. Paul spent countless hours honing his craft, perfecting every weld, every cut, until it became second nature. He knew one thing for sure. He didn't need a fancy degree to succeed. He just needed the drive to build. He just needed to master his craft. When he returned to his father's shop after graduating, Paul Jr. wasn't the same kid who used to sweep floors. He was now a skilled fabricator, speaking the language of the pros, with results to back it up. By 19, Paul Jr. was leading the railing division at Orange County Ironworks. That's no small feat. The department accounted for nearly half of the company's income. Most would assume it was family favoritism, but the truth is, Jr. earned that position. He expanded the design options, bringing a fresh, modern edge to the shop. His creations were so in demand that customers were willing to pay more and wait longer just to have something crafted by him. Managing a crew of seasoned workers, some older, some war veterans, and all initially skeptical, wasn't easy. But over time, even the toughest of them had to admit, Paul Jr. knew his stuff. He had turned a metal shop into something that people couldn't stop talking about. But even as he gained the respect of his crew, something was still missing. After years of building stairs and railings, Paul Jr. felt trapped in a box. He wanted more. He wanted to build something that moved, something alive. That spark ignited when he began secretly sketching motorcycles in an old notebook after long days at work. Around the same time, his dad reignited his own passion for bikes. It started casually. Sr. asked Jr. to help him build a bike. But when Paul Sr. saw what his son had drawn, he was taken aback. It wasn't just technical, it was pure art. And that was the turning point. Paul Sr. looked at his son and said, "Let's build bikes for real. Not as a hobby, but as a business." But building bikes wasn't just about motorcycles. It was about repairing something far more fractured, their relationship. With about $175,000 scraped together from the family's ironworks business, they launched Orange County Choppers. But it wasn't equal. Paul Sr. kept 80%, Jr. got 20%. It didn't matter at the time. They had nothing but a dream and a cold, unfinished basement full of tools. But within months, their bikes began to get noticed. Their first creation, True Blue, took 4 grueling months to complete. Late nights, endless welding, and blue paint with white flames. It looked like something crafted by a big-time builder, not a frozen garage in upstate New York. When they took it to Daytona in 1999, jaws dropped. They were no longer nobodies. But their success wasn't built on easy wins. In 2000, they were still working out of that freezing workshop. Tools broke. Suppliers wanted cash up front. Money ran out fast. Paul Jr. often worked 18-hour days, sleeping on a couch in the shop just to stay on schedule. The tension was high, they fought constantly. Big yelling matches. Not for drama, but for survival. Every bike they sold barely covered their expenses. But they didn't stop, not because they had to, but because they couldn't imagine quitting. Then, in 2002, a phone call came. A TV producer named Craig Pelagian saw a magazine feature on their bikes. He was scouting for a new reality show. When he called, Paul Sr. picked up and barked, "What the hell do you want?" The producer pitched a show about restoring junkyard bikes. Paul Sr. shut it down instantly. "We build them from scratch," he said. The deal almost died right then. But weeks later, the producer came back with a better idea. Film the real process, the arguments, the chaos, everything. Paul Jr. hated the idea. He feared the cameras would ruin everything. He even wrote his father a 5-page letter, saying, "They'll make us look like fools." The contract was insulting. $5,000 per episode, endless camera retakes, and lighting so hot it messed up their welding. At one point, the producers even suggested calling the show Family Friction. Paul Jr. nearly walked away, but they needed the money. So, they signed. When American Chopper premiered on March 31, 2003, no one could have predicted the explosive success that followed. In just 3 episodes, the show exploded. Over 3 million people were watching every week. Suddenly, they weren't just bike builders. They were stars. Their tiny shop turned into a tourist attraction. Merchandise flew off the shelves. Discovery Channel made a whopping $13 million in sales during the first season alone. The two tools had to move into a massive $12 million facility just to keep up with the demand. At first, it was Paul Sr.'s fiery temper that drew in the viewers. But as the drama unfolded, it was Paul Jr. who kept them glued to their screens. Fans weren't just watching for the chaos, they were invested in the story. They loved watching him build. Paul Jr.'s designs were nothing short of magic, silent, focused, and precise. In fact, one of the most requested clips to ever air was a scene of him building a gas tank, with no music, no talking, just the raw beauty of his craft. The Paulie effect was real. Welding schools across America saw enrollments spike. Junior's work wasn't just inspiring, it was sparking a movement. And then came the bike that changed everything, the Black Widow. This wasn't just any bike. It was a statement. A spiderweb gas tank, custom wheels, and 167 hours of pure craftsmanship poured into every inch. When the Black Widow was unveiled in New York, 15,000 people packed in to see it. Security had to hold the crowd back. And just like that, Orange County Choppers wasn't just a shop, it was a brand. Soon, they were selling model kits, shirts, video games, you name it. In just 6 months, over 280,000 model kits flew off the shelves. It wasn't just a business, it was a cultural phenomenon. But when Paul Jr. finished the bike in June 2003, it wasn't just another chopper. It was a turning point in his career. He wasn't just building a motorcycle, he was crafting a tribute to the firefighters who lost their lives on September 11th. And that meant every single detail had to carry deep, emotional meaning. One of the most powerful features. A real piece of steel from the wreckage of the World Trade Center. Paul didn't hand that off to someone else. He welded it on himself. The jagged metal was attached to a custom diamond plate bracket he created just for this bike. It was the final piece, the most emotional part of the build. But the challenge didn't end there. The design was so ambitious that Paul had to completely redesign the bike's frame. It needed to hold 343 hand-painted emblems, one for each firefighter who perished. That kind of weight, both literal and symbolic, demanded serious engineering. And when the bike got into an accident the following year, the New York Fire Department didn't treat it like just another crash. They responded like it was a fallen comrade, carefully recovering the damaged bike. That's how much it meant. Even now, the bike sits in OCC's museum, having traveled to over 248 events. People still come, some in tears, leaving personal notes and tributes beside it. Years later, Paul Jr. would revisit that powerful moment with another project, a second tribute bike. Unveiled on January 20, 2011, the reaction was overwhelming. It wasn't just bikers who showed up. New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg and the president of the 9/11 Memorial were there. Paul Jr. had been asked by Daniel R. Tishman, a board member of the memorial, to create something unforgettable. And deliver he did, not one, but two bikes. One was kept as a tribute, and the other was raffled off to raise money for the memorial. Tickets flew off the shelves, both online and in person. Every penny went to support the 9/11 museum. When the cover came off the bike, grown men, families, and tourists alike couldn't hold back their tears. The weight of that machine, of what it represented, hit everyone. Even the Huffington Post ran a full feature on it, spreading the story to those who couldn't be there in person. But beyond the flashy paint and polished chrome, what truly stood out was Paul Jr.'s technical brilliance. Paul Jr. wasn't just about designing pretty bikes. In 2012, he quietly introduced a game-changing technique to the motorcycle world. He began using T-spline modeling, a tool that made it easier to design smooth, curved shapes. What used to take over 40 hours now took just 15. And when he partnered with Autodesk to build an electric bike, that technique proved essential. Soon, other shops started using the same method, often without realizing where it came from, or giving credit where it was due. Then, in 2015, Paul did something that shocked even his own team. He created a system that made motorcycle frames lighter, but just as strong. It completely changed the game for custom builds. But he didn't stop there. Paul taught himself how to write G-code, the programming language for CNC machines. Before, he was just the visionary designing the bikes. Now, he could control the machines that built them, too. He had gone from an artist to a machinist, handling both the creative and technical sides of every build. The feud between Paul Teutul Sr. and his son hadn't exploded overnight, but this was the moment the world saw Paul Jr. carve out his own legacy. It started quietly in 2007, when Paul Sr. gave Paul Jr. a 20% stake in Orange County Choppers, but kept full control for himself. At first, it seemed like a fair deal. Father runs the business, son brings the style. But as Junior's designs began to dominate headlines, that balance started to shift. People weren't praising Senior's old-school craftsmanship anymore. They were buzzing about Junior's bold, innovative ideas. And that didn't sit well with the man who built Orange County Choppers from the ground up. Behind closed doors, jealousy began to take root. Senior's grip tightened. Every time Junior worked his own way or came in late, it lit a fuse. The longer it burned, the harder it was to put out. By 2008, the shop had turned into a war zone. Fights between father and son were no longer rare, they had become routine. The tension was all about control. Junior craved the freedom to create. Senior demanded obedience. It was a clash of worlds, creative spirit versus hard-nosed discipline. The cameras on American Chopper caught some of it, but they missed the worst. When the cameras stopped rolling, Senior became even meaner. It wasn't just Junior who felt the pressure. Designer Jason once smashed his creation after one of Senior's rants. The shop became a pressure cooker, with even Mikey looking broken from years of being shouted at. In September 2008, Junior was late again, and Senior snapped. What started as a warning turned into a public screaming match. Junior argued that OCC needed him, and that was the breaking point. Senior exploded, and Junior, pushed to his limits, hurled a chair in the trash can, then kicked down a door. Senior fired him on the spot, shattering their already strained relationship. The crew split, some siding with Junior, others fearing Senior's wrath. Even the network panicked. Junior briefly returned as a contractor, but by April 2009, he was gone for good. Senior wasn't done. He tried to buy Junior's 20% stake and filed a lawsuit when Junior refused to sell, seeking total control. The case hinged on a vague contract clause, leading to a long legal battle. In 2010, the court initially sided with Senior, but after Junior appealed, the appellate court reversed the ruling, allowing Junior to keep his stake. The legal win was huge for Junior and proved he wasn't finished. Reflecting later, Junior said, "We're not fighting. Are we hanging out? No, but things aren't bad, and that's okay. Some things take time." Junior couldn't build bikes right away due to his non-compete clause, so he pivoted to product design, working on a dog park and a makeover for Coleman's camping grill. It was tough, but he kept going. He and his wife converted a room into an office and launched Paul Jr. Designs across the street from OCC. In April 2010, just as his non-compete expired, Jr. made a bold move. Instead of opening his own shop, he triggered a full-blown mutiny. Key OCC figures, including Vinny, Joe, Nub, and even Mikey, followed him, leaving Paul Sr. furious. Discovery Channel capitalized on the fallout with a new show, Senior vs. Junior, turning their family drama into reality TV gold. While Junior had doubts about airing their conflict, Senior embraced it, creating maximum drama. The show blurred the line between family and ratings, with the bikes taking a backseat to the emotional chaos. Fans couldn't look away, even as the tension reached new heights. Amid the chaos, Paul Jr. met Rachel Beaster during a shoot in a yellow jumpsuit. What began as a fleeting moment grew into a serious relationship. While the family was torn apart by lawsuits, Rachel became his anchor, offering stability and a deeper sense of faith that reshaped his life. Their wedding in August 2010 was beautiful but marked by one painful absence. Paul Sr. didn't attend, his absence symbolizing the deepening rift. Despite the passage of time, the wounds didn't heal easily. In 2015, after struggling to conceive, Junior and Rachel welcomed their son, Hudson. Holding his son changed Junior's perspective, making him realize what it meant to be a father and how painful it must have been for Senior to watch him walk away. Through a spiritual retreat, Junior and Rachel made a bold decision: no intimacy until marriage. Their faith grew stronger and eventually became the foundation of their relationship, guiding Junior's life and helping him reach out to Senior for the sake of his son. That's when healing began. Their intense father-son rivalry wasn't just about motorcycles, it was personal and emotional. The 2011 build-off showcased their differences: Senior's aggressive style versus Junior's creative, story-driven bike design. Junior emerged victorious 5 out of 7 times from 2010 to 2016, proving his strength beyond his father's shadow. After leaving Orange County Choppers in 2009, Paul Jr. defied expectations by building an empire. Despite a non-compete clause, he launched products like a grill with Coleman, keeping his business afloat during a tough economy. He expanded into dog toys, even designing a public dog park. By 2012, his brand outperformed his father's, with his bikes featured in corporate campaigns and collaborations with giants like Blizzard and Paramount. In December 2011, the death of his grandmother prompted a brief, emotional call to his father. Though it didn't heal their rift, it marked a start. In 2018, a reunion was arranged for business, not closure. Discovery Channel capitalized on the family drama, bringing them back together to restore a destroyed Yankees-themed chopper. Despite separate shooting schedules and strict rules, tension was high. 2 years later, The Last Ride aired with good intentions but ended up deepening the divide. Senior dismissed Junior's ideas, and tension was palpable throughout the shoot, even with the emotional moments when they worked side by side. The attempt at closure only highlighted how little had changed between them. When the bike was finished, Senior admitted he hadn't wanted to do it, saying it didn't help their relationship. Fans rallied behind Junior, with #RespectPaul Jr. trending as they called out Senior's cold attitude. Despite what the commercials showed, it was clear they weren't close. By 2025, they lived completely separate lives, only speaking when required by contracts. From 2018 to 2023, they worked together on a few bikes, but insiders say it was all for the cameras. Junior confirmed on a podcast that he and his dad haven't shared a holiday meal in over 15 years. Their businesses are also split. Senior runs Orange County Choppers, while Junior grew Paul Jr. Designs into a $14 million brand. Both have accepted that working together ruined their relationship and are unwilling to revisit that path. They now exist in the same spotlight but live in entirely different worlds. Now Junior is ready to talk. In February 2025, he announced his new memoir, Given the Opportunity, set to release in October. But this one won't be the polished, TV-friendly story people might expect. Insiders say it will be raw and brutally honest, and it's expected to reveal several incidents cut from American Chopper, including a fight in 2008 that nearly turned physical. While his first book focused on his career and faith, this new one will dive into the heavy stuff, like his father's battles with alcoholism and the lasting damage it did to their family. Jr. said he's no longer hiding the truth. He believes sharing his story might help others who've gone through similar struggles with family.